Now, as we begin to look at web forms and individual web pages, I want to go through the page structure just so that it makes sense and you can kind of see these things in sections. There's a few things that should show up on a web page, and there's a number of them, and let's just kind of go through them. The first thing that should appear, now some of these are optional, some of them are necessary. This first one is necessary. It's a directive, and you'll notice this is the top of a web page. It begins with an @ sign. And it does exactly what it sounds like. It directs ASP.NET as to some of the different options when it executes this page. For example, the @page directive tells it what kind of code is being used or how to interpret the code. We can determine some of the compilation options, when the page is actually compiled, how much of it's compiled, and so forth. We can determine whether we turn tracing on, which we're going to look at later on in the course. So the first thing you're going to see is an @page directive. The next thing you'll need to see somewhere is code blocks. Now, these are normally identified by the script tag, and you'll see a script to open, and then you'll see the close script tag, and everything in between there is application logic. This is the stuff that we want to happen from a programmatic standpoint. Now, the important part of this tag is right here, run at server. The ASPX extension identified this thing to ASP.NET that it's got some things it needs to handle. The run at server designation tells it, whoop, and the script tells it, whoop, this is exactly what you need to compile and run and take place. Now keep in mind, I shouldn't have said it that way. The entire page is being compiled, but that's telling it exactly what needs to be run. This is the application logic, which means all of your subroutines, functions, and variable declarations should be inside these script tags. Now, this is not a big issue because if you try to put a subroutine or a function outside a script tag, it will generate an error and it won't run correctly. Now, these script tags are normally put at the top of the page. This is just a convention that has developed over the years, and most people adhere to this. Technically, you can put these script tags anywhere you want to, but normally put them up there near the top of the page, and it's easier to find them. Put all your subroutines, functions, variable declarations, all your programmatic aspects, application logic there, and it's really easy to find and come back and troubleshoot. Now, one of the main differences between ASP and ASP.NET is right here. You can only have one language per page in ASP.NET. In ASP, you could have 3 or 4 different scripting languages on the same page as long as you identify them. That can no longer happen. Now, you can use Visual Basic on one page, C# on another page, and even COBOL on another page, but you just can't mix them within each page. Now, the next thing we'll need to put on our page in the structure is the controls. And here I'm actually referring to the server controls that come with ASP. These are HTML and web controls. These must be inside form tags, and we'll look at some examples of that in just a few minutes. We can only have one form per ASP.NET page, and again, this is a change from ASP, where in old ASP, standard ASP, I guess you would say, we could have multiple forms. But because of the way these pages are being compiled and executed, we can only have one form on each of our ASP.NET pages. If we try to put 2, we get an error. Next up is code render blocks. Now, our code render blocks allows us to embed ASP.NET instructions into our HTML. And there's 2 types of these. The first one is Inline Code. And this is where we have typed some HTML, and a squiggly line here is my HTML, okay? And then we want something to happen in ASP, and then we got some more HTML. But we want it to appear just like this, in line with our HTML on the page, and this is how we do it. This right here says, whoa, kick this out to the ASP.NET guys and let them run that. Okay. The next type is an inline expression, and this is where we can have ASP render code out for us. And you used to see this a lot in ASP with the response write functionality, and this is actually the shortcut for that still in ASP.NET. And in this situation, this would write data to be written on page out onto the page, but it lets ASP.NET render that. A lot of times people use this to manually render HTML code out that the browser reads, and then it shows it's HTML code there.